Welcome in, everyone. Today, we're unpacking one of the absolute most monumental and deeply revered narratives in all of human history. We're talking about a story of unbreakable faith, literally unimaginable trials, and a level of patience that honestly shaped the modern world. We're diving into the origins of Hajj and Eid al-Adha through the incredible lifelong journeys of Hazrat Ibrahim, Hazrat Hajra, and Hazrat Ismail. So let's just jump right into this explainer.
But before we go back in time, I want you to ask yourself a pretty profound question. What does it truly mean to sacrifice what you love most? You know, we talk about sacrifice all the time. Our time, our money, maybe our comfort. But what happens when you're asked to give up the one thing your heart is most attached to? Keep that thought right in the back of your mind as we travel back thousands of years.
Section 1, a test of separation.
To really grasp the climax of this epic, we've got to start at the beginning. And Hazrat Ibrahim's trials, they spanned his entire life. I mean, in his youth, he was thrown into King Namrud's massive fires, only for those flames to cool by divine command. He was exiled from his home. And for 84 long years, he prayed relentlessly for a righteous child. Just think about that. Finally, at age 84, his prayers were answered with a beautiful son, Hazrat Ismail. Just imagine the immense, overwhelming love of a father holding his first child after waiting almost a century. But at age 92, the ultimate trial was still waiting for him. Actually, scratch that. Before we even get there, another massive test popped up when the boy was just an infant.
So Hazrat Ibrahim receives a divine command to take his wife, Hazrat Hajra, and his newborn son to a barren, completely deserted, and waterless valley in Arabia. This is what we now know as Mecca. And he's told to just leave them there. When he turned and started to walk away, a desperate Hazrat Hajra ran behind his camel, 9 kilometers. That is exactly how far she frantically ran behind him in the absolute blistering desert heat, begging to know why he was leaving them in a place where they'd surely perish from hunger and thirst. Under immense emotional agony, Hazrat Ibrahim remained silent. He just pointed to the sky, signaling that this was a divine command. And guys, this leads us to one of the most powerful moments in human history. Hazrat Hajra goes from pure, totally understandable human panic to this profound, unshakable trust. She says, if this is Allah's command, then you may go without worry. My Lord will never let me and my child be ruined. I mean, what incredible faith is that? She's standing in an empty desert, looking death straight in the face, and she chooses absolute reliance on a higher power.
Section 2, the miracle of Zamzam.
Well, soon after he left, the agonizing reality of the desert really set in. Their tiny bit of water dried up, and the unbearable heat started taking its toll on the infant. Unable to just sit there and watch her baby cry in agonizing thirst, this helpless mother sprang into action. She sprinted up Safa Hill, desperately scanning the horizon for, a caravan, a bird, literally any sign of water. Seeing nothing, she frantically ran across the valley to Marwa Hill. Back and forth, she ran between these 2 hills 7 times in the scorching sun. And here's the amazing part. This exact display of a mother's desperate love and frantic running is immortalized today. Millions of pilgrims physically recreate this exact run between Safa and Marwa every single year during Hajj. Exhausted and pretty much near collapse, she finally returned to her baby. And right there, a miracle happens. Hazrat Jibreel, the archangel, appears, and right beneath the heel of the crying infant, Hazrat Ismail, a spring of pure water literally bursts forth from the dry, cracking earth. She frantically builds a little barrier of sand around it to contain it, calling it Zamzam. This miraculous spring didn't just save their lives, it drew a passing caravan to settle the area. And incredibly, it still flows today, providing water to millions of people. Section 3, the ultimate trial begins. So, years go by. That barren valley, it became a real settlement, and father and son spent some joyous, albeit brief, moments reunited. But then, a new, completely heart-wrenching command comes down. For 3 consecutive nights, Hazrat Ibrahim experiences the exact same vivid divine dream. And remember, in the world of prophets, dreams are divine revelation. This dream was commanding him to sacrifice his most beloved, most precious possession for the sake of his Lord. At first, he sacrifices 100 sheep, but the dream comes back. So the next day, he sacrifices 100 camels. But no, the dream returns a 3rd time. And it was right then that the agonizing reality really set in. His most beloved possession wasn't his wealth or his livestock. It was his son, Hazrat Ismail.
Just try to wrap your head around the sheer psychological weight of that realization. A 92-year-old father who waited an entire lifetime for a son is now being asked to sacrifice him with his own hands.
Section 4. Defeating the devil. As the father and son set out toward the Valley of Mina to fulfill this devastating command, they faced this incredible test of their unified family resilience. Shaitan, the devil, started using some intense targeted psychological warfare. And he didn't just go after one of them, he targeted the whole family. First, he appears as an old man to Hazrat Ibrahim, whispering doubts, asking how a father could possibly slaughter his own flesh and blood. Ibrahim recognized him and rejected him outright. Then Shaitan goes to the mother, Hazrat Hajra, trying to ignite a mother's worst panic. He tells her Ibrahim is taking her boy away to kill him. She boldly replies that if it's divine will, she submits to it. Finally, he targets the young boy, Hazrat Ismail, trying to make him rebel against his dad. But Ismail, too, rejected the devil with just pure, unshakable faith. Now, to physically banish the devil, Hazrat Ibrahim threw 7 stones at him at 3 different locations along their path. In this ancient act of defiance, that is the exact origin of a massive modern practice. Those 3 locations are exactly where millions of pilgrims today perform the Jamarat ritual, throwing stones at the pillars during Hajj. It's a literal, physical recreation of this family's ultimate defiance against temptation and doubt.
Section 5. The Great Sacrifice.
Father and son finally arrive at the designated place in Mina. The moment of truth is right here. Hazrat Ibrahim, with this incredibly heavy heart, reveals the terrifying dream to his young son. And Ismail's response? It's just incredible. He says, "Oh, my father, do as you are commanded. If Allah wills, you will find me among the patient." There's no running away, there's no screaming, there is only this remarkable, breathtaking submission from a young boy who just wants to help his dad fulfill a divine command.
You might want to brace yourselves for this, because the emotional rate of these next details is just staggering. To make this impossible task easier for his agonizing father, the young Hazrat Ismail makes 4 very specific requests. He asked to be tied tightly so he wouldn't flinch and ruin the sacrifice. He asks his dad to sharpen the knife so the end would come quickly. He asks to be placed face down so his father wouldn't have to look into his own child's eyes as he did it. And finally, he asked that his shirt be taken back to his mother, Hazrat Hajra, to give her some small bit of comfort.
Hazrat Ibrahim, practically blindfolded by his own tears and running on sheer willpower, places the knife on his son's neck and draws it across. But a miracle happens. The incredibly sharp knife flat out refuses to cut. Literally, by divine command, the blade completely lost its power to harm the boy. In that exact moment of complete submission, Allah intervened. A massive ram from Jannah, from paradise, was provided right there in Hazrat Ismail's place. The test, you see, was never actually about spilling the boy's blood. It was about testing the ultimate submission of the heart, and they had passed perfectly. And it's this ultimate divine rescue that gave birth to the global tradition of Qurbani, the sacrifice of an animal during Eid al-Adha. Today, millions of Muslims around the world commemorate this exact moment by sacrificing livestock. But it's governed by this really beautiful, equitable rule. The meat is divided into 3 equal parts. 1/3 goes directly to the poor and needy, 1/3 goes to relatives and neighbors, and 1/3 is kept for your own home. It takes a deeply historical act of devotion and turns it into this huge global act of charity.
Section 6. Lessons for today.
So, we've walked through this grand historical epic, but what does all of this actually mean for you and me right now in the modern world? Well, the true meaning of this story isn't just about the physical animal being sacrificed. It's really an annual reminder to, essentially, slaughter our own internal flaws. We're being asked to sacrifice our massive egos, our excessive worldly desires, our stubbornness, and our sins. Let's be honest, we all have things we love a bit too much, right? Things that distract us from our higher spiritual purpose.
Ultimately, true success isn't about hoarding worldly things. It's about complete reliance and submission to a higher will. Think back to Hazrat Hajra, left alone in the desert. Her absolute trust that passing through the hardest times with faith would open doors of mercy, that gave us the Zamzam spring. And remember Ibrahim's willingness to give up his son? That gave us a legacy that has lasted for millennia.
Which leads me to leave you with this final, provocative thought.
Look, we may never be tested in a scorching desert without water, and we'll certainly never be asked to make the unimaginable sacrifices of Hazrat Ibrahim. But every single day, we face choices. So ask yourself, are we ready to sacrifice our own inner desires, our egos, and our comfortable little bubbles to achieve true spiritual success? Really reflect on that. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep questioning and keep learning.